Come on, computer. Let's give her a hand, everyone. Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. 216, Stony Brook, Manhattan. Another year. Jennifer.
Yes.
I've asked my class to begin this beautiful endeavor I've asked for 13 years is to bring these beautiful shots in of your family.
Right.
Where's your family from?
China.
China. Where in China?
More of a rural countryside. It wasn't very known, so I actually
Your parents or your grandparents?
all of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Okay. I ask people to bring in photographs, hopefully back to their grandparents. Some people giving me great grandparents.
Yeah.
We're going to study that. This is interpreting visual culture. So we're going to start with hopefully what you guys know, your own visual culture.
Yeah.
Bring in shots of your grandma, grandpa, shots of hopefully what happened out there in China, India, Poland, Russia, Greece, Uzbekistan, what you know of the history.
Yeah.
Develop an oral project too. What a lot of people come to me, the Grammys do, come to me to thank me. It's like, I finally got to talk to my granddaughter.
Yeah.
And, just get a little human contact on this and get a little, there are a couple professional names for this, as like documentary anthropology or creative biography or something like that. Okay,
Right.
Let's begin. And where we're going with this, Jennifer, we're going to get the film, talk about what approach to the form of the film it should take, use that film as a beta type, and actually ask for funding for that film, like $5,000
Right.
of what we could do to make this happen.
Right.
But I've asked all my students, hit it with a gut impulse. What was your gut impulse to begin with?
Especially being American born and having my whole family from.
You were born in America. You were one of the first ones born in America.
Yeah, so I don't.
Are you an older child?
I'm the middle child. My sister's older than me, and I have a younger brother.
Okay.
But for a lot of my cousins and I, we're all born in America, so we never had that experience to know how it actually really felt to grow up in China at the time that my grandparents, their parents, and our parents grew up in. And this was my first chance to really actually hear it from them. I couldn't get it.
Really? They opened
up?
up?
Yeah.
Really?
Because I couldn't ask my grandma because she's really old. She's really old and she has like really bad memory. And my grandfather.
Is she happy or unhappy that you're asking these questions?
I asked my uncle because I asked my second oldest uncle because the first one is traveling. My oldest aunt doesn't speak English, and then so he was the only one that could really.
But you speak Mandarin, right?
Not proficiently, but enough to understand and to conversate. But
wow, what a point! It's like being an explorer on a new planet or something.
Yeah, it really was because after my uncle and I had like a 2-hour talk.
Really?
Yeah, so it was really interesting to really.
He's your great uncle or your uncle?
Just my uncle.
Okay.
So my mother's brother.
Okay.
So it just made me both sad and very appreciative of what I grew up with here.
Why sad?
Because with my family at least specifically, they grew up during the Communist Revolution.
So when Mao took over in 48, 49, right? Mm-hmm. So it's been churning away. China had been eaten up by foreign powers. For a 5,000-year culture in the late 19th century found itself being chewed away at by European powers, not only European but Japanese. Opium is pushed at them. The warlords are selling off the concerns back to the foreigners. Yeah. For many years, the Boxer Revolution, the Opium Wars, whatever, China tried to consolidate and face this new challenge of increased technology from the Europeans, push colonialism away, deal with the Japanese, who somehow modernized rapidly. So it was a struggle of, I think, almost 40, 50, 60 years, actually.
Yeah, it really hit my family about in the 60s and 70s. Because their whole
Cultural Revolution.
Yeah, their whole economic situation
Were they professionals?
My grandfather was an intellectual man, so he was a math teacher, and then later on a headmaster of a school, And during that time, those were the people that were punished. You know, like the businessmen.
For being too bourgeois to carry
exactly.
on knowledge.
So what really hit me...
Yeah, I know. I'm your bourgeois professor here.
Oh, God. Okay.
Continue.
And what really struck me was I didn't know that during the Cultural Revolution, my grandfather and other businessmen and other men of intellectual standing were rounded up and imprisoned for a little bit, for a couple of years.
64 was this? 60. Oh wow, you got
I have a lot of notes. Yeah,
did you tell us about how you did? Did you sit down with Grandpa with coffee or beer or whatever and just say, "I got this crazy class, hit me with it"?
I said that with my uncle. I couldn't talk to my grandfather because my grandfather passed away a few years ago. So I had to have.
Was he happy to do this?
Yeah, my uncle was like, "Oh, just ask me what you want," and I was like, "Just start from the beginning and let me just write and ask questions and stuff." So. Like my grandfather was imprisoned in like 67,
wow.
like 1967, 1968.
Your granddad?
For
teaching math.
Yeah, for being like a headmaster, and intellectual person in society. And like apparently, from what my uncle told me, which is really crazy, that they took him away like in his household, and then the rest of the family, like my grandma, and they have 5 kids total. So my grandma and the rest of 5 kids, they were already in like a small town, but they were moved in like a big truck to like miles into the
depopulation. This is the society of the sent down girls, where they would take urban young women and like kind of like not marry them, but practically marry them to a shepherd way out.
Oh no, it wasn't like that. It was just because my grandfather was an intellectual man, they took him and imprisoned him, and as a punishment to his family, sent them off to like all the way.
It's like he was in a gulag, and the rest of them got scattered.
Yeah, so he was in prison for 3 or 4 years, and from what my uncle recollected, he was like being imprisoned. He had all the people that were imprisoned among his standing had to wear identifiable cone hats, kind of like those dunce hats, and had to wear these boards that classified their
crime.
Their crime. So I'm intellectual or
teach math.
Yeah, like some people had to write like I am a coward, things like that. And he said like during the Cultural Revolution, most of the push was from the younger generation. So he said he even like witnessed like my grandfather like being hit or verbally attacked by actually like young kids, like teenagers, and like a lot of the older men in this group of prisoners were like sometimes forced to do really like demeaning things, whether it's like manual, hard, like really difficult labor.
This is an interesting thing here that I've read a bit about the culture. This was like an age conflict too.
A little bit.
An ageist conflict between the younger communist guard and then the older.
It was supported by Deng Xiaoping, I think. Yeah. So like he had to.
Deng Xiaoping did this.
It was during the Cultural Revolution, so it was after Mao when the leaders switched. So a lot of.
But Deng was in the 80s though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But another thing was because this was also during a time when there was a lot of starvation too. So like
there are a couple of famines, and when you depopulate whole rural areas, you're like you screw up the system.
So like a lot of my uncles, my mother, and my aunts and stuff were like starving as like little kids and everything like that. So.
Did you ask them, because Mao had gestated, Zhou Enlai Mao gestated for many years to get rid of the foreigners, like chewing up the coasts, and the Japanese were defeated and all of that stuff. Did you ask them about, okay, this was cool to finally be sovereign Chinese now, but we're like getting eaten from the inside now by this communist system, by Mao, right? He forced the foreigners out, but now the whole system seems to be eating itself, right? Destroying the professional classes.
And like the businessmen and those that were considered higher class instead of like the poor or the farmers or like the manual laborers.
Wow. Yeah. Did your uncle live through this or not?
Yeah, he was. He did. I forgot how old he was. He was born in '59, so that was maybe he was like around 10, and then his youngest brother was around like 2 or 3.
Wow.
So it's like a wide range of ages.
Did he get to study?
That's another thing too. My youngest uncle was the only one that got all the way through to like a full college
Even though you came from an intellectual, professional family.
Yeah, because it just sucked that during the time that they were born, all these changes were being made to the government in which they either couldn't attend school or they had to go work to support the family.
Wow.
So I know my oldest aunt, she didn't have a chance to go to school at all. She was just always, taking care of the kid and helping out my grandmother.
And in China, under the communist China, women were expected to go to college.
And also,
right?
in college in China is only maximum of 2 years. So after that, it's like, what do you do?
When did they come here to the States?
Well, my grandpa was released in 1972. So
wow.
After he was
67 to 72.
So it was like 4 or 5 years, I believe. And they came to America through my grandmother's aunt, I believe, who was already in America since before the Communist Revolution. She was I think one of the nationalists that
she didn't go to Taiwan. She went to the States.
I believe so, yeah. So how it worked back then was that my aunt could only request people from her family, rather than anyone that's like her direct family. So only parents, siblings, and those pretty much it.
Tremendous.
Yeah,
it's very thorough here, Jennifer. It's really incredible. What did they end up doing right away here in the States for a profession?
So that's another thing, because they didn't speak English and all that stuff. Most of the jobs that they had to, or that they could only, I guess, be qualified for or be able to do are dishwashers, restaurant business, laundromat and stuff. Yes.
Working class jobs, exactly. Even though they were professional class, so this is my point. This is such an excellent illustration. What I want each of you guys to do is see history as the big H on your family. How you say, but it never happened that way to my family, Professor. It's like, you're not looking hard enough. I mean, how many of your family suffered under the 2008 subprime crash? 2 members of my family. So it's these big articles, these big news things have impacted your families in some way through patterns of migration, economically, if not, look at Jennifer's family, oppressively, with a police state coming down hard on her. Who would have thought? The professional classes, you study so long and you're penalized for it, To study why not stay home and watch TV all day long and whatever. It's very difficult. Let's open it. So they were manual labor. What do they do now?
Like each member of my family.
Did they return to professional?
Yeah.
Some form of professional, and which means they have to re-go to school here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right? I see. Okay, I see what you mean. Well, my oldest uncle, I think he stayed in the laundry business, but he has his own laundromat, but nothing.
And everyone knows that's cliche.
Yeah.
That a Chinese would run a laundry.
I'm not offended.
But that's history too. It's like you just said, they're math professors who have to come to the States to open up a laundry.
And then, And then my other 2 uncles work with each other. My youngest uncle was the one that got past college here. He went to Cornell from.
Far out.
Yeah, so he went to Cornell, and he's a material science engineer and a CEO of LED companies, in which his older brother works with him in that.
Are you one of the first generation of your family? Because you said under the Cultural Revolution, your dad pretty much could not go to college, right?
Oh no, my uncles couldn't go to college.
Did your dad go to college?
Actually not sure.
I'm just saying, Mao shut them down, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have the opportunity to go to college.
Well, my dad was from Taiwan, so I don't know.
Oh, he's from Taiwan. Oh, this is your mom's family.
Yeah, this is my mom's side.
So
the one I live more.
Through Chiang Kai-shek and the Nationalists, he escaped that and he landed in Taiwan and so forth. Let me open this up. Incredible story, right? Alyssa, what do you want to ask Jennifer? This is incredible, and we're running on 14 minutes. But this is good. This is what I'll interview each one of you for this summer session and come up with. It'll be a curveball what I'll ask. Alyssa, what do you want to ask of it? This is incredible. This is like the Cultural Revolution in China. I hope everyone's heard about it in your history books. It was a devastating time. Communism on the scale of China was unheard of. I grew up during the Cold War, where at any moment we're expecting missiles to roar in. China was amongst them. The so-called Red Scare, mostly from Russia, but the Vietnam War. This wasn't a Cold War. This was a hot war. Pretty much, Americans pretty much fought Chinese in Korea. To a lesser extent, China, even though China helped the Vietnamese. So this was a devastating landscape, which we face an equally complex world. Anyone step up to bat? What question you want to ask of history? Yeah, David.
Like, where did they live? Like once they got here, like where they first lived.
Oh, once I got because my grandmother's aunt was the one that brought everyone to the States through like that form. I don't know how it was back then. They all lived with her at first until gradually over time everyone collectively made all this money to like each buy a house. I'm actually really proud that each one of my uncles and aunts have bought a house by now. So.
What district? Borough? Are they in Queens?
We're
Queens, the place for the world.
We're all within a block from each other.
Really?
It's really sad.
What area of Queens?
Elmhurst.
Elmhurst.
So
Cool, man.
pretty okay.
David, is it similar? Your family,
Yeah, I think
David?
pretty similar. Like my family, they all moved to Chinatown. They lived there. Then they all branched out to like Brooklyn. And I lived like pretty close to my cousins also, like a block away.
Is this a Chinese thing to live very tight with
Yeah, I think.
cousins and so forth?
I know. When they first came here, they lived in Brooklyn, Cortellia Road, Beverly Road area, and it was actually way
Near
worse than it was
where
now.
Near
Like
is
in the
that near
middle
Coney
of-
Island? That's where you are?
Near Midland.
That's where here.
So that's where they lived, and they would.
You live there too?
Yeah, I live on Ivy. Ivy High.
And with
2
all
blocks away from City Road.
Yeah.
Far out.
and with all these jobs from Brooklyn, they would have to sometimes go to like the Bronx, Manhattan,
Manhattan.
Queens, everywhere. Long Island sometimes too.
Man, New York's the world, man. Laundry, cooking, the practical
Manual
stuff,
labor, yeah.
right? Incredible story. Devastating story, but incredible. This should definitely get funded in a way. What would your innovation, because I'm friends of Christine Choi, who's teaches at NYU and has done a number of stories about Chinese trajectories and so forth. What's an innovation you would do to tell this story in a new way? Because in your grant proposal, we are looking for innovation.
Yeah.
A way to do it differently. Otherwise, why would they give you money?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. So.
Okay, think about that. We're almost out of time. Let's give Jennifer a hand. See you later.
Okay, thanks.
And